we talk about getting control of the deficit. Where do you begin? What do you cut? What are the first 5 things that you would vote for to cut?
Well, look, we're not going to do this in 1 year. You're not going to be able to balance the budget in 1 year, and you're not going to be able to reduce.
But what 5 programs would you be in favor of doing away with?
Well, we have to look at a lot of the social entitlement programs.
Like what?
Well, we're going to have to retool Social Security. We're going to have to retool this health care.
What does retool mean?
Well, we're going to have probably a dual level, much like the unions years ago with the airline pilots and all. If you're young and contributing into Social Security, it's going to be a different game. It's going to be a different retirement age, more than likely. We have contracts, a social contract with those who've worked a long time in this country.
I agree.
We can't change that.
I agree.
We are where we are.
You got Medicare, you got the Social Security. You made a deal with us way back when. And it's not time now to pull the rug under these people that don't have any ability to raise income. That's wrong.
And there's no, there can't be any sacred cows, including the defense budget. Look, we're spending money on defense for things that we shouldn't be spending money on anymore. And it's a jobs program. The Congress is the worst offender here. They don't cut defense spending, but not in my district, right? Because it means jobs. We need a long-term plan. So defense spending, social spending, whether that's Social Security, we've got to turn the faucet down. We can't print money.
I agree with you. And and I do the show and find out that out of the Congress itself, 435 members of Congress, the House.
Yes.
2,000 people make over $100,000 a year, not counting the congressman.
Right.
They've got over 2,000 employees that make in excess of $100,000 a year as staff. I mean, you got to start somewhere. So how about starting there?
Well, this political class is
it really says something, doesn't it?
Sure does.
It really does.
Look, there's 3 types of people, as I say in Washington. There's a whole bunch of Democrats today. There's fewer Republicans. There's a whole bunch of incumbents, and those incumbents have become a political class. They've become the biggest special interest of all. I think if we had the ability to snap our fingers and replace all 435 people in November, I don't think this great republic would miss a beat. There's enough people down there, there's enough committees, there's enough momentum of government to allow new people to come in with fresh perspectives. Look, all I can tell you, Jordan, is you send someone down there who doesn't have political baggage, who doesn't have, I'm not beholden in the slightest to Republicans or Democrats. I've been to Washington and spoken with the Republican National Campaign Committee. They're not coming up here to throw money around to candidates in New England. And you know what? I'm not looking for it either, because I don't know who's running Washington from a Republican point of view. I don't know who speaks for the Republican Party. My goal is to speak for the people in the 2nd Congressional District. And I mean that sincerely.
And what are people saying to you? I mean, if you get beyond the Republican primary, which you have to win, obviously you're not going to be looking at Neil in November if you don't get through the September primary. What are people saying to you? I mean, obviously you're talking more to Republicans and independents right now than you're talking to anybody else, I would guess.
Well, that is true, but I certainly do talk to Democrats.
So what are people saying? I mean,
they say that
they're just angry?
They're disconnected from their from their representative leadership. I can, countless stories.
Is it the health care bill that did it?
No, it's before that. It certainly is that, and I think there's a lot of vitriol, and there's a lot of telephone jamming and lots of emails going back and forth, and you can understand with sympathy how a representative might become overwhelmed. But let me give you a personal example. As a scout leader, one of the merit badges that I teach is citizenship in the nation, and one of the requirements is for the scout to write a letter to an elected federal official. And I, particularly within the last year or so, I directed them to write to Representative Neal as opposed to Senator Kennedy at the time, because he was ill. And of the 4 scouts who've written him letters, none of them have received a response. And again, how tough is that to do? What type of constituent service is that?
That's not right.
And I go on and on and on. I can tell you chapter and verse of people who reach out to me and say, I've written all these letters and I've never gotten an answer. And in some cases, you do get an answer. In some cases, sometimes it seems like it's connected to who's a donor and who's on what side of the party line. But, people often just say to me, I don't think that he listens anymore. And, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing. Is that what Dylan said? And you don't have to be a physician to be able to diagnose what I consider to be a disease in Washington called Potomac fever. But you go down there, you could be like Jimmy Stewart and Mr. Smith goes to Washington with vim and vigor on day one and read the front page of the Washington Post every day and try and be the best that you can be. But after a while, you start slipping away to the back and you start reading the society pages, and you kind of wonder, who's sitting next to the president, who's sitting in the Kennedy in the suite in the Kennedy Center, who's up for that next chairmanship. And the yardstick by which you measure your performance is by your peers and not the people back in Washington.
But we've seen this, of course, and the problem is the process has failed.
Yeah,
The process has really failed.
sure has.
And we're going to make some changes, but how deep are those changes going to be? I mean, you know, we measure our congressmen. This is why I'm saying that some of it's our own fault.
Sure,
We measure
absolutely.
the job performance of our congressmen and how well they bring back to the local community money for jobs and roads and schools and economic development, and that's how we use as a litmus test. So, and then we criticize every other congressman that does it in their own
Pork
district.
barrel,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what's pork and what's filet mignon? And I'm going to ask you that question as soon as we come back. Tom, you know, we'll talk to you again, of course, before now in the primary. This is just an introduction that we had an opportunity to meet each other and introduce you to our listening audience. What can you say to our audience about why people should really, I'm sure you have a website.
www.tomwesley.com.
Okay,
Yes.
pretty simple. And information is there.
Oh, it's not a destination, it's a portal.
Okay, that's what people need to know, and I hope people will take the time to do that and you know, educate yourself. It's critical that people really spend some time understanding where their vote goes, not just voting,
Yeah.
understanding where their vote goes. You know, but I always say in the show, you know, if you don't know where your vote goes, stay home. Contrary to most other people on the radio, they say, please get out and vote. I'm saying if you're not educated, don't vote.
Well, this is going to be a year where we're going to need people to be as educated as possible.
You know the issues, never mind the personalities, know the issues.
And this year, in Massachusetts particularly, we're going to have a pretty full ballot for a change. You know, there hasn't been an opponent to Richard Neal in 12 years. So, I mean, that's a problem. We kind of touched on this earlier. That's our fault for not putting up a bona fide challenge.
Yes, because if Richie Neal wins, he should win by being challenged.
Right. I mean, I could look at my primary opponent, and it makes me a better candidate to know that there's
Absolutely.
somebody else out there running against me right now. And I think we make Richard Neal a better candidate and perhaps even a
Absolutely.
better representative just by the very nature of somebody running around the district nipping at his heels.
Should never have a free ride for anybody.
We see that
Everybody should
now.
be challenged.
We see
So
that now.
why should people look at you? Well, we got 2 minutes to go, so why should people look at you? Why should people consider you? If you're an unenrolled independent voter in Massachusetts, you can pull a Republican ballot in September. If you're a Republican in Massachusetts, obviously you get a Republican ballot if you show up in September. You go into the convention next Saturday, this Saturday.
Right.
Why should people look at you?
Look, I'm your neighbor. You know, whether I live in Hopedale, which is next door to you, or not, what I mean by that is I think the same way you do. I value the same things you do. I spend my time on the sidelines watching my kids play. I work in my church and try and advance the ball there. Try and raise money for things I believe in. Try to donate my time. You know, even just being a scoutmaster takes about 50 hours a month. Those are things that are important to me, and I believe they're important to the types of people that I'm talking to around the district. So first and foremost, I'm your neighbor. You know, this is our Congress. 435 seats, people's seats. You know, we talk about Scott Brown's seat as being the people's seat, but there are 435 seats just like that. This is our Congress, and most importantly, this is our time. If we don't change direction right now in Washington, under this set of circumstances, I can hardly imagine another set of circumstances that'd be more favorable to the winds of change. So for me, it's, you know, our neighbor, our Congress, our time.
Your opportunity.
It's our opportunity.